Okay, so this is Poetry with Chance. With Chance. Yeah, you get it. But today, so the thing that I've realized is at times we're gonna start doing a thing where we do have multiple poems. And a lot of the poems that I do pull actually are from Poetry Foundation. And I just go to poem of the day. And normally all I do is actually just pick the ones that I find for the day. And if I don't like it, I pick that author and I find something better by them. But moving forward, what I'll do is I don't actually mind reading these poems every single day. So I'll read poems of the day every single day. And then I'll bring you guys the best one that I appreciate. So in other words, we're not just stuck reading a poem we don't really appreciate and trying to make the best out of it. Like, it'd actually be tough one way or another, which I think is actually really dope. So it's like, instead of just you guys having an option out of one or two things and me picking what I think is good, I'll have it out of like 7 things every single week. So I'll fuck with it. The title of the poem is Uptown, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Even though it's May and the ice cream truck parked outside my apartment is somehow certain, I have a hard time believing winter is somehow all of a sudden over. The worst one of my life, the woman at the bank tells me. Though I'd like to be, it's impossible to be prepared for everything. Even the mundane hum of my phone catches me off guard today. Every voice that says my name is a voice I don't think I could possibly leave. It's unfair to not ask for things you need. Even though I think about it often, even though leaving is a train headed somewhere I'd probably hate. Crossing Lindale to meet a friend for coffee. I have to maneuver around a hearse that pulled too far into the crosswalk. It's empty. Perhaps spring is here. Perhaps it will all be worth it. Even though I knew, even then, it was worth it. Staying, I mean. Even now, there is someone, somehow, waiting for me. Okay, so basically, what I realized is, last time I read it, and then I tried to randomly pick out what I could remember when I was trying to give you guys the meaning of the poem, what I thought it meant to me. But I realized is I'm going to read the poems, and then I'm going to go through it again, and we'll pick out the meanings and try to construct something towards the end. And then as I'm doing that, it also gives you guys the chance. And that's also why I'm going to start dropping the link to the poems that we read on the Instagram, so you guys can also have it at the same time. But okay, whenever I read poems, I try to there's always going to be some level of symbolism. Like, the person is trying to the whole idea of writing it is they're trying to give out a message, or they're trying to find a way to creatively express their experiences. So a lot of the times people will try to paint a picture with their words, but it won't be direct. Like, it's just all like there's just a lot of symbolism, and you're gonna see a lot of that with like similes and everything like that. Hold up. It says, even though it's May and the ice cream truck parked outside my apartment is somehow certain, I have a hard time believing winter is somehow all of a sudden over. Whenever I find something like this, I'm thinking, okay, there's an image in my head. The person literally says, I have a hard time believing winter is somehow all of a sudden over. I'm pretty sure that this poem isn't necessarily about winter being over, and the person just felt like, whoa, this is drastic. Or maybe they were, and it could be that simple. But there's so much that you could pull out of it, which is the whole reason why I say it. I love the idea that you can pull multiple meanings out of poetry. But the thing is, I know a lot of the times with poetry, people will put their lessons that they've learned in something that's very well constructed. And the moment I hear winter is somehow all of a sudden over, I'm thinking that this person is talking about a certain phase in their life, or a certain process that's over, or an experience that they went through and it's over, and now we're going to have to try to figure out what's the next thing to do. If we follow the poem, I'm pretty sure that'll pop up. The worst one in my life, the woman at the bank tells me. If this was an exact story and this person was being direct, yes, this is just part of storytelling, but anytime somebody's telling a story, there's a reason for everything that they put in it. The worst one of my life probably isn't even about the woman, but the person thinking that this was something traumatic that they went through. But because they want to paint that image, they're gonna insert it as somebody else's comment to make it subtle, but it's up to you to pick it up. But yeah, and then it says, though I'd like to be prepared, it's impossible to be prepared for everything. If we're looking at this from the same, like from the last episode that we did when it was talking about what happens after the healing process, though I'd like to be, it's impossible to be prepared for everything. You learned this lesson, and now you want to be so ready for the next time that it pops up and you want to apply it. But you know, it's not until you're in that situation you're going to realize that you need to use this lesson. It's this idea that you want to be so prepared for it so you're not hurt or so you're not caught by surprise. But you can't be prepared for everything. It's the idea that that self-discipline has to be there for you to trust yourself enough when that situation does arise. Whenever it does, you'll be able to handle it accordingly. Even the mundane hum of my phone catches me off guard today. The idea that something so simple is now affecting the poet and they wouldn't normally do tells us that there's something that changed. Something is now different. And it's not the happiest thing, because if I'm a very happy person and I'm enjoying my life, the smallest things are not going to affect me. But my phone buzzing does. When does your phone buzzing really affects you the most? When you're happy and you're out at a party enjoying yourself? Or when someone tells you we need to talk and you're waiting for that talk to happen and you're scared, you're on edge, you don't know what to expect, so you're everything kind of just, you're anxious. And when you're anxious, the littlest things can provoke the biggest reactions out of you. Every voice that says my name is a voice I don't think I could possibly leave. And if you think about that, I don't think this person is saying, oh, every voice that I hear, I can't leave it. Like, I go outside, somebody's walking, I hear their voice, and they say my name, and I'm just stuck there. My teacher says my name, and I can't leave them. By this, what I'm kind of getting from what the author, but with the poet, I gotta start saying poet and not author. I'm so used to doing this and using that word in high school. But what the poet is basically trying to get across is those people that have access to say his name, those voices that he hears, he's talking about the people in his lives, the people that he cares about. And he didn't give us a way to distinct any of the groups in his life. It's more about saying no matter who he comes across, once he starts caring for them, it's hard for him to leave, whether or not things need to change in those bonds. It's the idea that he's not disciplined enough to set those boundaries or to take those actions to remove himself from certain situations if he needed to. It's the idea that he's saying he's incapable, like he can't, even if he wanted to. Every voice that says my name is a voice I don't think I could possibly leave. Like, even if he want to, he wouldn't be able to. It's unfair to not ask for the things you need. And if you think about that and you relate it to the last line where I can't possibly leave anybody that I come across, that's where it becomes the issue. That's where that pain comes from. You want things out of people. You want people to match the energy that you're putting into them. And when that person is incapable of doing that and you can't ask for it, that's when you're stuck. You don't want to leave this person, but you also are incapable of speaking up to make sure that this situation that you don't want to leave is a situation that becomes more manageable by being less toxic and less draining, but rather more fulfilling. And then what is it? Even though I think about it often, so it's this idea that I constantly am aware of those things that I need, those things that I want, but I don't speak about it. Even though leaving is a train headed somewhere I'd probably hate. When you're healing and you have to move away from people, it's always going to suck. Like, you leaving a person that was very toxic to you that you're in a relationship with, wherever that healing process takes you, wherever you decide to go with it, it's going to hurt in the beginning. You're going to hate it. But at times we hate the things that are good for us because it means we have to detach ourselves from something that we were incapable of letting go of. So in other words, we only look at that thing like it's bad for us because you're not in a situation where you're thinking about your worth and what it is that you deserve and need. You're thinking about what you're comfortable with, what you remember. That nostalgia is what's fueling that hate, because you know you can't go back to this if you go down this route. That's what you hate about that route, that it doesn't take the past and allow you to find a way to maneuver through it with this new lesson. But instead you realize you have to detach and step away. Even though I think about it often, leaving is like a train headed to somewhere I'd probably hate. Crossing Lindale to meet a friend for coffee. I have to maneuver around a hearse that pulled too far into the crosswalk. It's empty. Perhaps spring is here. And I think the part where it's talking about crossing Lindale to meet a friend for coffee, you have to maneuver around. I think those are things talking about those things that you're not going to like about the healing process. Those things that you're going to have to do to adjust to this new version of you, or those things you're going to have to do to adjust to become that new version of you. Those aren't things that are going to be pretty. If the healing process was so amazing in terms of how we look at it initially, everyone would be great. There wouldn't be a lot of people that needs to heal. That's the whole reason why people who enjoy the healing process, you get a little more out of it. That lesson retains a little more. The lesson you remember the most is that lesson you learned in your favorite class, not in the class you hate. When you're intrigued and interested by certain shit, it'll stick. But yeah, and then he says it's empty. I think when he says it's empty, they're more talking about the idea that your past is no longer there. That those things that you were attached to, those things that you couldn't let go of, they're not there. It's not like you get in a town and this person is saying like the town is just empty and nothing is there. But I think they're using that town, and I don't know the name of this town, but somebody who lives around there or knows of it probably understands that picture they're painting, the idea that there's not too much there. But that environment is the environment he's trying to communicate that you should be creating for yourself. An environment that's free of pain, that's free of trauma, where you still have all those things that you wanted to do. You can still get coffee, even if though it's going to be a little different. You can still have friends, but you're going to have to go about that a little differently. And at first, you're going to hate it. You're going to have to adjust to it. But it's the idea that you're still able to do those things. It's just you have to go about it a different way. And then he says, perhaps spring is here. And that's where it's kind of like, perhaps a change is here. Like things are changing. Perhaps it will all be worth it. Even though I knew, even then it was worth it. Staying, I mean. Even now, there is someone somehow waiting for me. And I will completely admit this whole entire poem, all of it felt so smoothly. And then the last portions was just a mind fuck, because I felt like it took it to a different route than what everything else was bringing you. But then again, I actually like poems like that, because then it's a mind fuck, and I'm not going to stop reading this poem. I promise you, we will stop this recording and I will still try to understand what the fuck this means. I don't like not knowing things. It's a gift and a curse when you can't actually figure this shit out and you have to get frustrated at. But yeah, I'm going to keep on going back at this, and then maybe on the next episode, when I go down and I look at different interpretations of it, I may see certain things that other people were able to see. And when we do these episodes, I want you guys to also drop down what you thought about the poem, whatever stood out to you. In other words, just interact with the poem itself or the analyzation of it. I feel like this is a class. I like poetry class, and I'm the teacher. I appreciate you guys, but this was an amazing poem. The link will be in the description. And if this gets posted on IG, the link will be in my bio. Yes, sir. About.